Hey, good evening, everyone, and sorry for the delay. People who have joined only for this session, there's a 10 minutes delay for you people, but people who have coming from the other session, you know why the delay was, right? So we'll start a different topic altogether. We'll not discuss about the previous topic. The topic now is about the implementation of machine learning application on the cloud platforms, right? So when we talk about machine learning, it is about implementing a ML workflow. Okay, there are a few more people who are joining in. Yeah, just trying to admit them. All right, so ML workflow. ML workflow is nothing but the crisp MLQ methodologies that we follow, which contains 6 phases. Now, when we are trying to do the crisp MLQ methodology in your local machine, as a POC, we will try and implement the entire steps, right, from data collection, then data pre-processing, model development, then we talk about deployment. And there are a lot of steps which can be automated. Yeah, these are specifically the steps which are time consuming. Now, I know you people are coming from the machine learning background, right? Data science background. So in the process of machine learning development, ML workflow, can you people tell me what are the steps which are time consuming steps? You can use the chat window. What are the steps which are time consuming? If I have to talk about workflow, we will do data collection. Then we talk about data pre-processing. Then we talk about data partitioning. Then ML model development. Then we talk about evaluation and tuning. Then we take the best model by doing the final evaluation. So here, maybe I will say validation. Validation and tuning. Model evaluation will give us the best model. And then this best model have to be deployed. These are the steps, right? So let me see the answers. Very good. Very good. The time consuming data pre-processing, EDA, data pre-processing, data cleaning, pre-processing, data collection, pre-processing. Only this? Ah, very good, Yash. Hyperparameter tuning. Hyperparameters, tuning of your model is also a time-consuming task. So we will have these 2 primary areas where there's a lot of time is wasted, and it is, I should say, a very laborious job. It's not something which is an intelligent job. It is more like a machinery job, which is repeating the same things. Especially when you talk about a lot of features being there in your data set. I mean, high dimensionality. If you have high dimensions in your data, then you will get this problem, because you will have to do univariate analysis, right? So these are the areas where time can be saved, and thanks to the experts from the operations team, ML Ops, they brought in a lot of improvements in the CRISP MLQ methodology when it has to be productionized. For POC, we don't need to look into all this, but if you have to put it into the production environment, then ML Ops suggests a lot of standards. Right? A lot of my students who work on the projects, they don't understand the real world practical scenario of implementation part. I try to explain them. People who contact me, I'll try to explain them that, hey, the data that you're working on is only a sample. In majority of the cases, we will not get the pro data. We are trying to develop an application. We are not trying to build a machine learning model for a given data. This is not what you try to do. Okay, when you talk about projects, we always think of the problem that we need to solve. And if required, you will develop an ML model. And this ML model has to work on any data which is coming from the business. If you say that, no, I will work only on this machine learning equation, if you give me data, then I would say, no, thank you, because I can get this code developed by a school-going kid. I'll just have to tell that, hey, this is the algorithm, search for this particular algorithm code in online, copy the code, apply it for the data. They can do it. We don't need people who are experienced, people who are studying a lot of advanced techniques. A university, a freshman can do this. Industry expert is not required. Experience is not required. I don't need to apply any brain for this. Right? So projects are more from an application perspective. Your thinking process has to be from a generalization purpose. So you will have a source, data comes in from this. How much data will come in? We don't know. What kind of challenges we will have in that data? We don't know. So the code that you are developing should be capable to handle any kind of challenge. So if you take a sample data, let's say I will give you 1,000 records. In these 1,000 records, I may have scaling issue. Right? Some columns may have high scale, some columns may have low scale. So you do scaling. Maybe you're saying normalization. There may be outliers. So you do outlier treatment. Okay. So let's assume that these are the two challenges that you have. Only two challenges. In your sample data that is given, you only see these two. And you basically work on this data pre-processing and then pass it to your ML models. And you'll get the best model and you'll say, hey, this is my solution. But do you think this is the best solution for a business case? Because you'll not only have 1,000 records, there will be more records coming in. You are going to work on only a sample data to build a proof of concept. What if the data which is flowing in, once you, let's say you integrated this into the system, you integrated. So what happens? More data comes in. I have 5,000 records. By the time the business has given you the data, they have only 1,000 records. But by the time you develop the model and gave the model to the client, they have now 5,000 records. So the model that you have developed should work on all this. Isn't it? Now, in this 5,000 records, What if there are missing values? You did not apply code which handles that because your sample data did not have it. Will this model work very well on these 5,000 records in this case? Obviously, no. So we're not developing a foolproof, right? A foolproof model. It's not production level, right? So we will have to try and automate the entire process. When I say automate, you will have to ensure that application that you're developing, ML code that you're developing, will handle each and every case. We will assume that each case is being there in the data. Each challenge has to be addressed. Each case to be addressed. And if you have that case, then you have a solution available in your code. And thanks to these implementations, right, from MLOps team's suggestions, the data science world has started looking into automating the entire process. And in order to automate, right, in order to utilize these services, we have cloud services which are readily available. We will be looking at the AWS scenario. I will be talking about Microsoft. I will not be able to showcase. If time permits, I will be showcasing that. And we also have GCP. These are the world number 1, 2, and 3 in the same order. Right? This is the order for the cloud service providers. And these cloud service providers have the ML as a service, software as a service, application as a service. You can give any name. This ML is given as a service on these platforms. And the beauty is these cloud platforms will not have any option. I mean, you don't need to do coding. They'll have end-to-end things implemented where you're just doing next, navigation-based, click-based scenarios. So you don't need to do any line of coding. Right? So that is basically your ML on cloud or AutoML capabilities. Each of the cloud has its own name, its own interface, but ultimately we are trying to implement the ML model on a data set from end to end. So it does all the verifications, it does data validity, it does data pre-processing, it checks all the things. And then it also does model development, it does hyperparameter tuning, and it gives us the best model saved so that that model can be deployed, and you can also deploy it by just doing a check mark. Put a tick mark and say deploy, that's all. Everything is done end to end. Okay, these are all irrelevant things. Don't read everything on the slide. It is not relevant for you. Focus on the important points. AGI means artificial general intelligence. Okay. What is that and all that is irrelevant. Let's not get into that discussion at this stage. I've mentioned that, but yeah, this is not something that we'll be discussing. So we will be talking about these services, as I mentioned, top cloud providers, AWS, Microsoft Azure, GCP in the same rank, same order. Then we have Alibaba Cloud, IBM Cloud, OCI, whatnot. A lot of big and small players coming into the market right now. There are something called as Data Robot, then Converge, then we have, what is that? I mean, huge listers that I cannot recollect right now. But yeah, these are some of the services that we are going to look at. Top 3 popular. The AWS has something called as SageMaker. They've started this in 2017. Okay, very, very recent. Okay, AWS SageMaker. Of course, the service was there, but within this, they have invented something called as Autopilot now. SageMaker is called as a fully managed service, which can help us to build, train, and deploy the ML models. Right? So you don't need to know any ML capabilities. You don't need to have any functional knowledge. It's just a navigation-based service where you just select the data, pass the options, and then boom, it does everything for us. Right? So that is the concept of SageMaker, end-to-end service. But because it is an end-to-end service, it is going to cost us. So you'll have to be very careful when you're dealing with these SageMaker service in Amazon. It contains Autopilot in SageMaker Studio. And if you want to do any customizations and play around, if you're an expert, then you can use SageMaker's notebook instances, which will allow you to use the SageMaker services for doing your customizations. When this document was prepared, it was almost like last year. There were 17 built-in algorithms for your AWS to implement machine learning algorithms. These are all built-in algorithms. You just have to select the option. So you don't have to write any code. Everything is written for you. And it uses all these frameworks that we generally use in our model development, whether it is machine learning or whether it is deep learning. Right? We can also run our own code by using these notebook instances and taking the services. Right? We can all have our own containers and do this code. And we also have marketplace, which will allow us to also purchase if required or use some free services which are available in the marketplace for your pre-trained models. Say, for example, you're developing an application, some very interesting application you developed, ML. Now, this ML model that you have developed can be saved and can be put in marketplace. Now, what is this marketplace? For a lot of people, it might be a fancy word. I'm pretty sure everybody understands Play Store, right? Google's Play Store. This is a location where all the Android applications which are developed are placed. It's like a centralized repository. It's like a marketplace. You go there, you'll have free stuff, you have licensed stuff, right? Cost-based services or applications. This is managed by Google. Similarly, AWS has a marketplace. So any service or products that you want to utilize on AWS services, then you can use this marketplace. You can place your product there and then sell it if you want. Right? So pre-trained models will be available there. Rather than talking about all this, let's go to the SageMaker. I'll talk about the SageMaker. I'll navigate these things and then I will show you. So search for AWS. Let's say Amazon Web Services. Let me see. Amazon Web Services. AWS.cloud. Right? Amazon.cloud. This is basically the AWS.cloud.com. So Amazon Web Services. I'll click on that. This is how it is showing it. Its interface. You'll have to create an account. Okay, this is the cloud in India. AWS has the data center in India, Mumbai region. Okay. We also have local customer support. Even in Hyderabad, we have support. Okay. This has recently come. Okay. Now, let us try and log in. I already have an account, so I'm just logging in. If you don't have an account, you will have to create a new AWS account. It's a pretty simple, straightforward application. Navigation steps. You can follow the steps, read the the instructions, and create our account. They will be asking you to validate your credit card. They will charge 2 rupees in Indian currency, and then that will also be returned back. Okay, that charge is only to validate that your credit card is a valid working credit card. Now, Amazon gives you 1 year free account. When I say free account, there are a lot of services which are free for 1 year duration, and every month you'll get certain credits to be used. There are some services which are full-time free, right? Anytime you want to use, they are free. But there are some services which provide you free credits. I mean, Amazon gives you some free credits to use those services. If you consume them and consume additional services also, I mean additional time also, then they will charge you. And there are certain services which are not free. Even for the free account, you'll have to pay for that. Right? Only Amazon gives you like a lot of free options, freebies. So let us try and log in. I have my account. I will log in. Yes, I log in. I will change to Mumbai. Yeah. This is basically how my console looks like. If you are a new user, they will ask a few more things to be validated. They will ask you for what kind of services you want to use in AWS, right? Some kind of basic things to capture your details. So we are assuming that you have the AWS account. I'm assuming that you have AWS account, and we are only talking about Amazon SageMaker service here. Okay, so services, you can click here and you will have all the AWS services here. You can search for those services, or you can navigate to these services to understand what are the various services that they provide. So machine learning, you can see all these are the services. SageMaker is what we are interested in. I'll click on SageMaker. And this is how the SageMaker page looks like. So typical SageMaker workflow, a SageMaker is used to build, train, and deploy machine learning models at scale. Scale means for production. It contains Studio, Studio Lab, and RStudio. That is the control panel, but yeah, we will not use this. We will directly come here. So typical workflow says you first label your data. That means you get your data. Then you build your model using notebooks. Then you train. You can use tuning technique. Tuning is nothing but your hyperparameter technique, optimization technique. Then you will be deployed. You can also discover. That means you can go to the marketplace and try and sell or purchase the services. You also have introductory video. You can go through the video, and there are certain benefits and a lot of documentation is given. Huge documentation is given. You can try and read all this documentation. You also have tutorials, documentation. So everything is given, right? And you can get started with SageMaker. I'll click on that. And this basically is quick setup. This is also a standard setup that we can use. They also ask you to go through these steps. Okay. So SageMaker, I can also click on get started. It will redirect me to the same page. Okay. And yeah, these are all tutorials that you can go through and read. Now I'll say set up SageMaker domain. The first thing is it creates a specific domain. Okay, this is the default name. I'm not changing any names here. Let it be the default name, which is automatically given. You can have the name, and it says the name can have up to 63 characters. It can have uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and hyphen. No other special character is allowed. And the execution permissions, right? For this particular domain is like your project, you can say. It will allow what kind of permissions? Execution permissions. We are giving full access to this particular domain. I mean, I want to do everything that I can experiment with SageMaker Studio. If this is a domain which is created for, let's say, from an organization perspective, and the multiple users in your organization, right, in your team, have to use the same studio, because right, it's obviously a paid service. So you might want to give access to different Amazon users, that means your team members. And in such case, you might want to have some restrictions on the services that the users should be using. So you can go to IAM service in Amazon or in any cloud service, right, cloud scenario. There's something called as IAM. Let me check that. Security and identity compliances. Here you will have IAM, identity and access management. Identity is like your user authentication. Access means the user access controls. What services, what kind of control you might want to restrict. Right. So using this IAM, you can try and have the access controls set on what kind of rules you will want to give. You can define the execution. There are many roles. You can give any of these roles. By default, it creates one execution role for this particular domain. As a user who's creating the domain, you'll get full access by default. I'll submit. Now, it basically gives your domain. You can see the status, it's pending. It's creating the domain. Once it creates the domain, then we can come to the applications and start Amazon SageMaker Studio. The same thing happens in Azure or your GCP as well. So we will give a little bit of time to have this particular service kickstarted. Now, once we have the studio right domain started, and once we have the studio also application also, right, configure app is something that we'll have to do, then it allows us to navigate to the SageMaker Studio. Okay, so we'll get dashboards, we'll have various other different services and configurations that we will have. Okay, great. Wonderful question, Manoj. I'm assuming you have joined late, Manoj. We were discussing about SageMaker from start, almost from 10 minutes. I was explaining what is SageMaker. Diksha says, can you, what slide, Diksha, can you be more specific? Which slide you're talking about? The slide is this what you're talking about? This one? If yes, yeah, there you go. Okay, before right you start, I also want to add one more point. I failed right initially to mention that whenever you're using any of these cloud-based services, always remember to use incognito mode of your browser. Okay, this is important. You use incognito mode. This will ensure that your login doesn't impact the other browser logins. You may be logging into different accounts. So the browser cookies and all that, they may take the details and allow you, automatically log you into a different account altogether. It's taking a little while. Okay, so yeah, these are different panels. Let me talk about this. Ground truth, these are like labeling jobs, labeling data sets, labeling workforces. These are nothing but annotating your data. Generally, this is basically annotating data. What does annotation of data means? Let's say I have data without any labels. And the best way to understand this is an image. Okay, I'll give an image, but I don't name it. I mean, I'll say this is a file name. This is file 1. Okay, so if I have this file 1, but in this I have, let's say, a human, let's say a male. For training purpose, I will say that this is a male person. I give another image where I'll have a female. Okay, I'll say file 2. The file name is this, but I have to label it as female. So I might have millions of such images where I will have to label them based on the the gender of the person who is there in that image. So these are called as annotation or labeling jobs. Okay, so Samruti, the question that you're asking is more from a user management perspective. I mean, you need to learn all those things, and that is cloud computing concepts. Okay, so I cannot go into all those discussions in this particular masterclass. That's out of scope of this particular discussion. But yeah, you should be able to do it, provided you experiment the features IAM module. You have to go for a cloud computing training. Somebody you need to learn all these features. Then there's a dedicated training altogether for these cloud providers from the cloud providers. You have to choose an appropriate training and probably take it up or experiment. All right, so SageMaker domain is ready. And here, the launch app is something that you can see. Once the domain is ready, this is created. So you can say launch app studio. I'll click on that. And it is redirecting me to this particular SageMaker studio. Right? So it will take a little bit of time to have this interface kick-started. In the meantime, let me look at the cloud. Yeah, we do have those cloud computing training services also. You might want to look at the the objective, what exactly you want to learn. When you talk about cloud services, when you talk about cloud computing, we are basically talking about infrastructure. We are basically talking about various services. One of the services that we are talking about is security services, IAM. We can also talk about machine learning as a service, different things. We can also talk about network related implementations on the cloud. So you need to zero in on what is your primary goal. What is that you want to learn on these cloud platforms? So there are different designations also. People who work on cloud, they have different roles and responsibilities. It's just like you have a server. So you have people who maintain the softwares, you have people who maintain the hardware, you have people who maintain the network, you have people who maintain the operating systems. Same way, we are doing it on cloud-based systems. Cloud-based systems are nothing but servers which are located somewhere which physically you don't have to worry about it. Services are provided online. Now, if you are keen and if you want to have a certification, and if you are more inclined towards data science, what is this? If you are inclined more towards data science, then go for ML-based certifications, which are provided by the cloud services. Like AWS has certain certifications for machine learning and AI. Microsoft Azure has the same ML certifications. GCP also has machine learning based, data engineering based, right? AI based, dedicated certifications that you might want to look out for. You have to read more about this. All right. There's another question before I proceed. So does Amazon SageMaker uses computer processor or browser like Colab? Both. Both, yes. We're talking about servers. So it basically uses both. It's an end-to-end separate right, system. And if you want to use the computing capability, processor capability, then you'll obviously be charged for that. Okay, so you can see this is how your SageMaker Studio appears. You have different ML tasks and components. You can import and explore data. This is basically for your EDA services, right? You can basically do EDA services. Compilation job, new project. This is probably where you might want to look at, or end-to-end ML development can be done using autopilot experiment. Now we will be using this autopilot service. You can say create prediction models from the data that we have, and we can directly deploy it and start using predictions by just few clicks. What is that I'm trying to explain, Manoj? What is that we are discussing right now? Do you understand what we're discussing? You're repeating the same question, so I want to ask a reverse question to you. Do you get what we are talking about here? I am okay. That is what I was worried about. You joined late. Am I correct? Okay. That's where you're stuck. I cannot go back and explain from scratch. SageMaker Studio is an end-to-end ML platform. Okay, that is the answer for your question. SageMaker Studio has a service which allows you to develop end-to-end machine learning models. Okay. You can also go through the recommended videos section in LMS, which already is hosting certain videos for ML on cloud. If you go through those videos, or this video will also be getting uploaded into your LMS, you can revise these videos or go through the videos which are already provided to understand in detail again. So whatever the part you missed, you might want to cover that up. All right, so let us click on this new project. It will take time, so I'll have to move a little quick here. So creating an autopilot project, it says experiment and data details and deployment and advanced, right? All these details are given here. Now I will show how a model can be developed. I will not apply it. I already have some applications which I have already developed. So I will only show you how it is done, and then I will probably show you the previous models that we already have, assuming they are still there, and I'll try to see. So experiment name to start with, I'm trying to give a name. I'll say ML on cloud, August 2000. 22. Okay. Let's say this is the name that I'm giving. Next, all we need for SageMaker Studio is the source data. Now, this data can be there in some service which we already have taken on cloud service, right? Database services on cloud, or we have a location S3 bucket. Now, S3 bucket is nothing but a folder on the cloud, right? The S3 Amazon services, which we have to create. So you can directly come here on the storage. If you click, you see all these services. Scalable storage in cloud. I'll click on S3. It's nothing but simple storage system, S3. It gives you this bucket. Bucket is nothing but a folder. By default, there is one folder which is already created. This is for your SageMaker Studio. It just got created just now. I'm creating another bucket. This is for my data. ML on cloud, August 2022 -data. I'm using the same name. Location, the region is Mumbai. I'm taking the Mumbai region services only. And then I will say create. I'm not changing anything. All the default settings are as is. I'll create a folder. So I got a folder. On this folder, I want to apply or upload some data. Let's use any of the data that we already have. I will use a model which we have used for, let's say, let me try and recollect any data set that makes more sense. What is the data set size? Okay, I'll use this Clemens data set. This is simple data set. Let me use this. Okay, let me use this. Okay, so I've selected a file which is 29.1 KB. I'll just upload this. So data is uploaded, status is done. So you can see the file is there. You can see the properties of the file. You can see the permissions that are given onto that folder. You can see the metrics, total bucket size and all that. There is not much here, but we will be able to talk about all these properties of the file. Right? You can also click on that. You get all these right, details about the file. If you directly click on that, your file will also get downloaded. S3 URL is this. So I will go back here. I will browse through the folders. Why is this? I'm not able to see the folders. Strange. Did I not create the bucket? Okay, let me. Okay, this is not. Why is this not public? It should have been public. I think by default they have changed these things, but otherwise it should have been public. Okay, let me just. Okay, let me create another bucket and clone this otherwise. ML data. One. Copy. Okay, I'll just choose this bucket. I'll take all the properties and then I'll say create bucket. Corporate values. Okay, fine. Oh, this already is taken. Okay, this bucket is created. Why is this not public? I've taken all this. Something is happening. Okay, let me just change the permissions here. Storage, actions, nothing is given here. Resource name, bucket versioning, disabled tags, default encryption, access login, cloud trials, event notification, all these things are not at lookup. What is this? Why is this not public? Okay, let me edit and say, uncheck this. Okay, fine. I'm just checking. By default, it is blocking all the public access. I'm not sure. I just changed it so that right, we get the access to this particular file. Okay, let me just now check. Still not accessible. Why is this? Ownership, bucket owner. All users can access this. Authenticated users. Okay. Okay. This 3 bucket read permission should be there. Yes, it is there. I've taken the region also, AP South. Is this bucket in the AP South? Yeah, it is in the AP South. I have created the open access. Input data is okay, fine. What I'll do is I'll just move this file to another data. Okay, wait. I'll just try to do this. Something is wrong in the folder. Okay, I've selected the file. Is your manifest file? No. Okay, what is the target data in this particular data set? So you can click on preview. This is our data set. If you have already attended the class, you know this data set. And in this data set, we have the attorney, which is 0 and 1 as the output variable. So it is asking for the target variable. So you'll have to choose attorney. Right? Then you can specify the output data location, create output data location, yes. Then comes the next stage. So here you can see Autopilot automatically creates an output data location in the same directory as your input data. If you don't want, you can always say no and choose an option, choose a folder where you want to put your folder. So I'll say yes, automatically create. Then comes next stage, deployment and advanced settings. We can always come back to the settings if there's something that we have missed. Then comes, do you want to auto deploy the model? If you say yes, then it will be automatically using the deployment steps, saves the best model and creates an instance in the backend and tries to deploy the service in that particular instance. And you'll get an endpoint which can be used for doing the predictions. As a service, you will get the endpoint. Now, I don't want to deploy, so I'll say no. Because if you forget about this, then it is going to be a very costly affair. If you're using SageMaker Studio and if you're not able to delete all the services after your use, then you are going to constantly get billed. Right? And that is going to be very heavy. Over by the end of the month, when you look back into the bill, you'll receive an email and you'll be shocked. So I don't want to get into that. I'm not deploying auto deploying it. Then choose how to run your experiment. This is optional. Okay, the machine learning problem type. How do you want to choose your this entire thing? So you can ignore it. And when we talk about the machine learning type, generally your machine learning prediction models are of two types: classification models, regression models. So you have binary classification, regression, and multi-class classification. You can also choose auto because you don't know what to be used. So based on the target variable, it automatically goes into regression or binary classification or multi-class classification techniques. So you basically go for review and create after you have given all these options. You can go back, walk through all these steps that you have given. And then if you're fine, you can say create experiment. All right. So let me just cross-check the experiment name. I've used the already existing SageMaker Studio folder itself. I've not created any other folder. There was some issue with the S3 bucket. It was not getting recognized here. So I just used the same existing folder. Output I have defined. Attorney is my output data. Auto split data. Yes, we want to automatically split. Automatically create the output folder. Within that particular SageMaker Studio, there will be another folder created for output. The machine learning model, I said auto. How to choose to run your experiment? Run a complete experiment. Now, I don't want to run a complete experiment. I'll go back. So choose how to run your experiment. So you can say, I don't want full experiment. By default, it will use a lot of different candidate experiments or candidate models. That means hyperparameter tuning. By default, it uses 250 different experiments. Right? That means 250 different hyperparameter changes happen. Right? And it basically does a comparison and gives us the best model. It also allows you to choose how you want to deploy. Though I have said do not auto deploy, but it will give you how to deploy it, option to deploy it. Runtime, you can define the time. See, as I said, 250 candidates, right? So I don't want so many. I will just say 5 experiments. By default, it is 250. You can also give time if you want this, or you can give the number of jobs that it has to trigger and execute. I'm giving only 5 candidate models. That means I'm saying 5 iterations, 5 different hyperparameter changes should happen, and 5 different experiments should run. Access default SageMaker role, or these are all different roles and responsibilities that you can give. Encryption, let's not get into this. Security, if you have a virtual private cloud, then you can use that and set it up. This is again generally when you have multiple projects running, specific domain you want to create for your particular projects which run on a specific geographical locations, where you do not want to allow the network from different areas, different countries to get into, all those restrictions basically come into picture. Then you can have a VPC created. Then you have project. This project is basically, as I mentioned, you create a project and associate all the experiments that you do specifically for that project. It's like, let's say one client is giving you a project. In that project, you are doing many ML experimentations, different models you want to develop. So in such case, you can associate this particular execution to that particular project. You may have such things. Tags, again, different key and value pair associations you can give. This is like name. Right. So all these things you might want to select. Let's run this full experiment because I have given only 5 experiments. So you can again cross-check and then say create experiment. So it is executing. These are the things that it happens. By default, experiment takes 250 models. It is showing that message. But remember, I gave only 5. Right, so that is the autopilot experiment. It is created here. I can double click. It gives me this window. There's nothing just yet created. These are all different options. I'll go back. So these are previously executed pipelines you can see. So this is charts, metrics. These are the different artifacts from previous execution. I have not kept any of these details. I generally delete them to ensure that I don't get billed. I'm a little scared because I was charged close to 30,000 when I was initially doing the practice on AWS some time back, some years back. So from then on, I'm a little careful with the AWS services. You have to be very careful with respect to this. If you forget any of the services that you have launched, as I mentioned, you'll get billed. All right, so this is with respect to the AWS. Now I'll quickly show, I'll walk you through more of a theoretical side of things with respect to Microsoft Azure and GCP. In the meantime, this finishes. Okay. All right. So let me try and launch other windows. I will go into my credentials. I will try and get my credentials. I will launch and I'll just log in. I don't remember the credentials, so 1 second. Huh? Okay. So with respect to Azure, Microsoft Azure, we say Azure dot, I think portal dot Azure. Azure Cloud. Let us search for that. It says azure.microsoft.com. Yeah, let us go here. You can also say directly to Microsoft Azure portal. So this is the main page for your Azure services. You will have to, again, just like AWS, create an account. You can start with free account, right? And then right, start using the services. I have, again, my own account created. So I'm using this service. I'll log in. Yeah, I'll just sign in. Yep, I want to stay signed in. So it is redirecting me to portal.azure.com. Okay, you can see portal.azure.com. So this is basically how your Azure services look like when you log in. Azure also will require you to validate your credit card. They will also charge around 4 rupees to validate your credit card to preview these particular access. Now in here, they give 200 free credits for 1 year. AWS says 1 year free service for a lot of services, and month on month they keep giving you these free credits. Azure gives only $200 for your entire 1 year. GCP gives you $300. I'll also show you your 300 right, services also. I mean GCP services also. You'll be able to see that it is $300. So you can start by clicking it. I already use it. So the next point that you might want to talk about is looking at the services, Azure services. These are all the different services that you have. You can also click on more services, and this is the list of all the services that you have. This was the same thing that we were looking at in Azure also here. When I was talking about Azure, you see at the top services, the grid is given and services are given. These are all the services. This is the same behavior that we are seeing here in Azure, all services. The one thing in Azure and GCP that I like, personally, this is my personal view. You can also use the same logic in AWS as well, but somehow I feel psychologically comfort with respect to these service called as resource groups and projects in GCP. This is resource group. So it is like project concept. In AWS, I said project. So you'll have a project created and you'll associate, let's say, a billing cycle for that particular project. You can assign some budget and say that cannot cross this budget. Some thresholds you can put, triggers you can put, email alerts can, right? You can also configure all that. Generally, that is done by your cloud providers, I mean, solution architects, cloud solution architects. Similarly, here in Azure, we have resource groups. Resource groups basically are nothing but a group which you create, right? Which allows you to, I should say, control the resources that you are going to use for a specific, let's say, development. Any development, it could be anything. There will be a bunch of services, hardware or software services that you're going to use. All those things can be grouped together for better management. That's nothing but your Azure. So I'll select this. It is again asking for my credit card, is it? I've already given this. I'm not sure why it is asking again. Strange. No subscriptions. How come? Subscription is nothing but your billing. I do have a subscription. Do I have a subscription? Oh, it's asking for me to log in. I don't want to log in. I want to use here. It's been some time that I use these services, so they give me all these challenges. So let me give the TP here. Fine. Do I have services? Maybe they can. Do I have services here? Okay, let me check. Yeah, I can see this. All right, so this is basically my services. I want to create a resource group to start with. More services, I'll say. And resource group, I'll create this resource group. You can give a name, any name. You can say create resource group. You can give a name, any name, your wish. And then you can have your, let's say ML on cloud as a name. Okay, this is the subscription. Resource group is ML on. Okay, I don't have permission because this is restricted. Right, so this is from a different project altogether, and I don't have permissions now. So yeah, this is, I mean, if you would have permission, I would have created a resource group and then started using all this. Let me see if I can immediately give this service. Okay, let's not dwell on this. I will manage this later. I would want to create subscriptions on this, but I don't see the subscriptions at this stage. Okay, fine. Let us also see Google Cloud. Hopefully, I have no issues on Google Cloud. Cloud.google.com. And here we will use Gmail account. Okay, all you need to have is a Gmail account. Okay, I will deal with my Azure account later. We are lacking on time, so I cannot dwell there. Maybe in the next class, I will be explaining about Azure. But ultimately, it is a resource group. And then within the resource group, you will take different resources. Right? And whatever services you are going to add to that specific resource group, the billing and all those things will be controlled with respect to the subscription you have associated with that particular account. Once you're done with that particular project, you can delete all the resources that you have taken by deleting the resource group. That is one advantage that you will have with respect to Azure. Same thing here with respect to your GCP also. So you will have $300 free credit here, and always free is 20 plus products. If you want to understand what are those, you can click here. This is cloud.google.com. Okay. Now they also give you all these different services. And if you scroll down, right, a lot of information is also provided here. Okay, let me log in. And to log in, I will have to go to my username password. Let us try and understand what are those. I need to try and bring in the username password. You can use the Gmail account to create your Azure, your GCP account, but it will be probably be used for 90 days because 300 credits that you would get is only for 90 days. Okay. Post that, it will be charged. You'll have to consume all the $300 within that 90 days. So I have logged in and you will see console. It says go to console. Either you click on console here or here, go to console. This is basically the page, the first page. You can click on recommendations, dashboard, my bad. And you also have recommendations here. Change project level IAM role grants. This is basically something we are getting as a recommendation. So if you don't have relevant IAM permissions, you need to set it up. So it also gives you those suggestions. So once you go to the dashboard, this is what you'll see. And in Azure, we have resource groups, right? In GCP, we have projects. You can create projects based on what you are working on, and you can create those projects by here. Coming to the projects page, you can keep creating your projects. You can also delete. Shutdown means that that particular project will be shut down, and after 30 days, it will be deleted as well. Okay, so I'm not creating anything. I'll come here. And right, you can also verify what all projects, what all, right? You can see here the projects that are available here. I have only one project. So this one. You can create new projects like this using the create new project option. It will redirect me to this page. It says per month you have these quota. So for me, I have 24 projects because it's a right, official account. For local account, I mean your generic public account, that is gmail.com. You'll have less number of projects given. Okay, so yeah, this is a new project. If you want to create, you can just create it, and you will get again the dashboard. The notifications will be given here. You can see the new project is created. Now the current project that I'm using is this. Right, it is Stigma. You can see that project details here. The services are given here in the hamburger menu. You can see navigation menu at the left top corner. If you click on that, you will be able to see all the services that GCP provides you. You can also see the products in grid application this way. I'm more convenient here in this approach. Okay, so you can see IAM support here, IAM and admin. You can also have pinned. These are like favorites. BigQuery is the data warehousing service in GCP. I use this. Frequently, I use this. So it's there pinned. Dataproc is basically for creating a big data Hadoop clusters. Again, I keep using this Dataproc for doing a lot of POCs. So it is also pinned. And then I have AI platform. I can go directly to that AI platform. The previous version is called as AI platform, but now it is called as Vertex AI. So they're changing, right? Go to Vertex AI. This is basically how you can see your page. So if I scroll down under big data, under analytics, you have all these services. Under artificial intelligence, you can see Vertex AI. AI platform is pinned. Vertex AI is the new tab, you can say, in GCP, which brings in all these AI capabilities, NLP capabilities, video capabilities, audio capability, processing, right? Everything into single location. Vertex AI. So in AWS, we were talking about SageMaker Studio. In Azure, we call it as AutoML service. In GCP, we call it as Vertex AI. It says Vertex AI AutoML. But in GCP, you will have to enable the APIs. All the services that it provides, all these services, right? Majority of them, in fact, all of them you can say, are API-based services, and they are always by default disabled. If you want to use them, you'll have to enable that. Once you enable it, you have these services that you can use. Prepare your training data. This is nothing but your annotation. Train your model. Upload your data. Choose the model that you want to apply. Then start. It will automatically choose one of the models from the given options. It also does hyperparameter tuning. It also does feature engineering with respect to data preparation and all that. And then finally, after all the hyperparameter tuning optimization done, it chooses the best model, and it will also be able to deploy. And this is your predictions page. After you train a model, you can use it to get the predictions either online as an endpoint or through batch requests. This is your endpoint. That means you want to deploy that, so you can get it from this. All right, so this is basically how your GCP operates. This is the UI. So let us see if this is done. Okay, API is applicable to GCP. See, API is an internal thing for GCP. Within GCP, you will have a lot of services, and those services are generally given as API services in GCP. In AWS, they don't use the terminology. Ultimately, it is nothing but API only. The terminology is not used. In GCP, we use that terminology. Yes, API calls. Yes. Can we get recordings? Yeah, these recordings are already there. It's there on your recommendations videos. ML on cloud. If you refer to that videos, all these things are also explained there. This is just another version of the same content. All the services, all the cloud platforms work on same logic. If you are developing something and if you want to integrate it between different services, then you can use API-based calls. You can do that using API calls. Yes, whether it is Azure, whether it is Microsoft, GCP, whether it is AWS, whether it is IBM Cloud, APIs are the way to do the integration. You can also have hybrid cloud-based applications. That means you can have GCP-based service communicating with Azure-based service. These are also possible. It's still taking a lot of time. It's doing the model tuning now. Tuning is nothing but the experimentations that it is running. Now, what you can do is you can try and see if this is not yet ready. You will get a notebook. Once this execution is done, you will get the entire code in this notebook. Data exploration, EDA part. The entire data exploration notebook is readily available. Python code. Open candidate generation notebook. Candidate is nothing but your one machine learning model with a specific hyperparameter tuning. You will be able to get that particular code. Right? So all these things will be available. Now let us see if I can. No, nothing is, trials are not yet shown here. Still taking time. That's right, the problem. Let me see if I have this. I don't see anything. Okay. So this is from the previous execution, and I'm trying to see if I can show you. I don't have anything. These are all the executions that I have done in the previous case. It's 5 months back. So this particular stuff is still existing here with respect to the details. These are the trials. These are the jobs which are already done, executed. You can visualize the data like this. You can pass histogram on x-axis what you want, y-axis you want what you want. You can pass those values to get the visualization. Unfortunately, this data and all those things are not available, so we cannot see much. But with respect to this particular execution, one of the ML model executed, you will be able to see the metrics like this. Right? These are the parameters that were used. So alpha value, ETA, k-fold is 5 by default. Cross-validation around is 5. Then max depth is 4. Subsample is used here. Objective is binary logistic. Minimum child weight is this. Gamma value, evaluate. So you need to understand all these metrics, parameters, sorry. And the ML, right, SageMaker Autopilot is altering these parameters to execute one model. That's this model. And it uses an instance which is ML M5X 4X large. So it has specific RAM and processing capabilities which are defined. We can check that details also. There will be table for all these instances as well. This is the single instance that we have taken. And these are the various parameters that it has. Then artifacts, what all things we have obtained. These are the input data, training data, validation data, and this is your output artifacts. Everything is in tar file, compressed. These are the AWS settings. And we also have explainability. We will see a sample code. Explainability with SageMaker Clarify. This is one of the service, which basically tries to gives you the explanation of the entire data. This is a sample example. It talks about the descriptions, EDA, and all that, and how the model is executed. What does it give you, right? How it is validating the data, how it is validating your models. So all this is sample code which is readily given. This kind of code will be generated for your model as well. And if you have any bias, it will also show you the bias report. Trials, no trials are given here. Trials are nothing but your experimentations. Autopilot is tuning your models with hyperparameter optimization. It's still taking time. Not sure why. Did I miss giving the 5 trials? I doubt it. I think I have not given that. Maybe it has not taken that. Okay, fine. We can stop the experiment and right, we can only see, let me stop, early stopping. I just said stop. So whatever is the current execution, will complete it and stop. It does not start any new execution. I also want to show you how do you ensure that your billing is managed. So let me go to that billing cycle otherwise in the meantime. So you will be looking at your billing here. Billing dashboard is there. You can go there. Under the right side top corner, you see the billing dashboard. It will talk about all the services that we have used, how much it costed, right? All these things. You can go for cost management. There you see Cost Explorer. You can also say budgets. You can create a budget and set a control. It will send you an email. This is an experimentation. So I'm putting a threshold. I'm saying that hey, 0.05 is the budget. If that budget is reached, then you send an email. Right? This is something that I have created. You can always create a budget by doing this. Cost budget recommended. Usage budget can be done. Savings plans can be done. Right? So you can say next. How to set up your budget is given here. Budget name, you will say minimum cost budget. Budget, set budget amount on monthly basis or daily basis, you can set it up. Recurring budget, renew on the first day of every month of billing period. Or you can also say expiring daily budgets. It doesn't renew. Right? So by default, it is renewal. We have to use it. So start date is today. Fixed budget. Create a budget that tracks against a single daily budgeted amount. You can also have auto adjusting if you want. I don't want auto adjusting. I will say 0.0501, for example. I'm just giving you an example. Budget scope. All the AWS services, I recommend this. Right? So it is recommended. Any service that you're using, based on our overall services that you're using on AWS, if your budget crosses 0.01, then it will give you an alert. Right? So all these things are there. And they say next. How your budget alerts look like. This is basically what you have. Add an alert threshold. Threshold, right? Before it actually stops, it gives you a warning message. So if you want to set up a threshold, you can also have this alert. If you say 80% of your budget is reached, then you might want to have an email. So to who all you want to send the email can also be given here. So I'll say to myself, and then I'll say next and review, create a budget. So it creates a budget for me, right? And whenever the budget is reaching the 80% of the threshold, then it will basically give me a message. Threshold is also set. And this is the actual budget that I have set. Next, Cost Explorer is interesting service. You can say launch Cost Explorer. Okay, it is completed. Let's go there. I'll just quickly show this and move to the SageMaker. Yeah, so this is basically the cost summary. This is the home. You can also see all the reports. You can click on all reports. It will take you to the service. Monthly cost by service. This is basically showing you month on month what all services you have used and how much it has costed you. You can also change it to daily basis and select. So I'll go to August. I will say from 22 to 27. I'll select this and I'll say apply. Last day, last 7 days, right? All these things can also be selected. So this is the service base. Last 7 days, I have not used anything. So it is basically saying 0. Similarly, I can say last month. Monthly basis, right? So this is for the last month, that is the current month, August 2022. This way you will be able to see all your costs. So in the billing also, you will be able to see all these, right? So when you click on bills, you will be able to see what all services in what all regions the billing is actually given. And if you see any of the services here, any amount, then immediately you might want to go back and cross-check whether you have used those services or not. Now let me go back to this right services. Here we are looking at the trials. So if I say this is the experiment that I have started, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs. So I'll select this. It actually should give me an outcome here which says best model. Because we have stopped in the interim, it is not giving me that information, but these are all the various trials that I have executed. This is the last trial. This is your training job. Let me just execute this. So these are all different trials that we can try and choose. It gives me all the list. So I can also say open candidate model. This is the entire data. Right? It basically says what all code it has executed in the backend. Pipeline is created. This is the model. XGP boost is basically being run. Select candidate model, right? These are all the candidate models. Hyperparameter tuning talks about all the various parameters that it has used. You can carefully run through this code and understand what it is. You can download or import the notebook if you want to get the entire code. You can download it. You can make the changes and all that. Same thing, you can also look into the data exploration code. So this is with respect to data set summary. The detected columns are this, and target analysis. This is your attorney column. It does the analysis with respect to the entire data. Right? It also does missing value check. Look at that. For each column, there is some missing value. So it is basically looking into that scenario also. Right? So all this is basically with respect to your data. Now, if I open this particular experiment, these are the various metrics that I have got. When I executed that model, these are the calculations it gave. This maximum, this is the maximum you can see here. You can also try and adjust this. I'm not able to adjust this. It's not the best model, but it should be able to. Okay, fine. Anyways. These are the parameters. For this particular model, we have used a different set of options. And artifacts also you can see. This is where your output folder is. Let me check. Yeah, this is the folder. And these are your output model. Output details. All these are the different models that have been generated. AutoML candidates are nothing but your different services. Notebooks are provided here. Whatever we have seen there, right? It is nothing but these notebooks. Pre-processed data is also given. Tuning data, right? We used validation data here. Automatic partitioning happened. We did not do it. I selected automatic partitioning, so it has done the data partitioning also. This is the transformed data. We have 5 different transformed data options. Train and validation. So different manipulations have been done. This is your training data, right? You can see all the CSV. So these are all different experimentations that it has done in the backend. All right. You can carefully observe what it is doing step by step and then try and use this particular model. All right. So yeah, these are sample codes, sample explainability. Sample code is given. We have already seen that particular experiment or data codes here. The notebooks here. When you run this entire experiment end to end, then after completing, it gives us what is the best model here. It gives us the details about all the models it has executed, and it arranges the best model at the top, and it also says that is the best model. And it gives you an option to deploy that particular best model. Right? I have stopped it in between, so it is not showing all those details. So you might want to check the parameters options for these two different scenarios. So you can see here, k-fold, numpy, right? All these things are changing. ETA is this. Whereas in this model, the numbers alpha is different, ETA is different, right? All these have changed. So we have the SageMaker Studio doing the tasks end to end for us. Same thing is also implemented in Azure, AutoML, Vertex AI in GCP. Same thing. It's just the navigation varies. Now, once you are done with this, right? Remember, you need to shut down your SageMaker Studio. Otherwise, it is going to cost you a bomb. So how do I delete this particular service? So first thing, I will go to buckets. Right? I'll also go here with respect to my S3 SageMaker. I'll come here. Let's get started. I already have this application. What is this? Yeah, this is my application, right? So I'll have to first delete the application. Then I will be able to delete your SageMaker's domain. So I'll say delete here. I'll say yes, delete, and then it will ask me to type this delete button. So this is to ensure that there is double, triple verification. So I'll say delete. It is starting to delete. The application, the SageMaker Studio that we have created is now starting to delete. From the folder perspective, I will delete the folders because I don't want data also to be there, because even that will cost us. First, I will have to ensure that the content is emptied. I'll have to say, you cannot simply delete a folder without deleting the objects. So yeah, successfully deleted the objects here. Then I'll come here, I will delete this particular folder. It will ask you to copy and paste this, delete the bucket. I'll also delete this particular folder. So I'll select all this and I'll say delete. Permanently delete. Delete the objects. Yeah, delete it. And I will come here and delete this folder as well. Delete the bucket. Next, buckets are not there. So we'll go back to the SageMaker Studio as an Amazon SageMaker. You can also see if you have used any of these services, processing jobs, you might want to check. Yeah, these are all stopped already. Yeah, these are all stopped. Training jobs. Do we have any training jobs which are active? We might want to check that. No, these are also stopped. Hyperparameter tuning jobs. This is stopped. This is completed. So 3 different jobs are completed, stopped, and 3 are completed. These are algorithms. I don't have any algorithms here which I'm using. Endpoints. There's one endpoint which is already there. I will have to delete the endpoint. Otherwise, it's going to bill us. Remember I told you. Endpoints, yeah, just delete this. Don't keep any endpoints. Yeah, these are all the different models that I have used, and just check if there is anything which is active. You might want to delete all these things because these are the models which are saved when we use this model, right, in the backend in SageMaker Studio. It was showing the previous executions, right? So those are the things. So these are all March, October, you can see 2021, March 2020 models that I have executed. The recent ones that I have executed is this. So if I don't delete them, next time when I go to the SageMaker Studio, I will be able to see these executions. Right? So just to ensure that don't want to keep any track of this, you can delete these models. And if you feel that these models are good, and if you want to create an endpoint, that is deploy them, you can do that. All right. Let's go back to SageMaker and see if this is deleted. After all the users' apps have been deleted, you may delete the user. It is not done yet, is it? Let's check. Manually refresh it. Still not deleted. Delete. Once again, I'll try to press it. I'll just try to make sure that I'm applying it multiple times. Because unless until this is deleted, the application is deleted, I cannot delete the user. I cannot delete the SageMaker Studio domain. So if I say SageMaker, this is basically the page. Here I have the user, right? This application. So once I delete the application, I'll be able to delete this particular domain also. So it's still taking time to delete this. If you have associated all these things with respect to a specific project, then you can manage these services very easily in AWS as well. But that is an optional service that is given. Whereas in GCP and Azure, they are kind of a mandatory things. Unless until you create a project in GCP, you cannot take the resources. Same way in Azure also, unless until you have a resource group, you cannot request for any resources, or you cannot get any resources for your projects. All of them are right kind of grouped together. So that is the difference between SageMaker and AWS and Azure and GCP. But you have seen, right? I have not executed even a single line of code anywhere. Everything was navigation based. I was just selecting the services, trying to click the options, pass the options, and then get my ML model ready. So that's basically how right, your models can be managed here. All right, so that's it. Once this application or user has been deleted, then we will go for the deletion of the application or the domain, you can say. Right? And always keep checking the billing. On daily basis, you have to keep an eye on AWS services, especially when you don't have these budgets, the IAM, right? IAM related access controls given to different users. You don't have alerts scheduled based on budgets. So unless until all those things are there, you have to be careful with respect to your billing. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Probably it is going to take some more time for deletion also. but we are done for the day. So as part of the masterclass, we have learned about very basics of ML on cloud implementation. We have talked about autopilot service in AWS specifically, and quick tour of GCP Vertex AI, how to navigate to that. And Azure, of course, I was not able to show the entire thing, but Azure requires the resource group to be created first, and then we will be able to take the machine learning services. Right. All the data has VM instance. Yep. All data is being processed. Yes, that is what we have seen. In real time, this is what we are doing. Imagine I'm working on a project. So I'll be using the AWS service organization that I'm working on. Has an AWS service subscription. Then they will provide me an AWS account login. I will be using that, and based on my roles and responsibilities, I'll be given access to certain services. Using those services, I will be working on the ML models. And if I have access to deploy a model, I'll also be able to deploy it. If my organization that I'm working for has, let's say, subscription with respect to Microsoft Azure, then the same task I'll be doing it on that cloud. So it depends. It depends purely on what kind of service subscriptions we have as an organization. That depends, Raju, right? So it is an experimentation. SageMaker is a service. If as an organization, I have the SageMaker Studio option as a service, then I will use AutoML only. Why I will do manual modeling there, model development? As a POC, maybe I will do it for a small data set. I'll see whether logically developing a ML model will work on a specific data set or not. Once I get an idea on my local machine, once I do it, I'll take the same thing on AutoML, SageMaker Studio. Sunil, in GCP, you can simply delete, shut down your project. Once done with your entire project development, if you're done with all the services usage, deleting the services individually will be the same logic. Go to that specific service, delete the services, shut down them, delete them. But as a project, you can go to the project, shut down, project settings, shut down, and automatically after 30 days, everything will get deleted. Once you shut down the project, you'll not be built. It's taking a lot of time, not sure why. Yeah, somehow taking a lot of time. All right, we are done for the day. In the first half, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., we have talked about data pipelines. We talked about data ingestion. We talked about code collaboration and code maintenance using GitHub repository. How we can push the project, which is there on your local repository, onto GitHub is something that we have tried and did. And later on, we did this ML on cloud implementation. So yeah, these services, masterclass services, we will keep happening. We will conduct these things every month. There are a bunch of other topics also. And you can choose one of the topic and keep attending them to enhance your knowledge with respect to machine learning implementations and data science concepts. And these masterclass are going to definitely help you because they are giving you overall idea on the data science as a entire study. And there are a lot of skills which are interrelated or dependent, and knowledge of these services or these topics is going to help you crack the interviews better. So keep attending the masterclass sessions. All right, with that, I'll conclude. Thank you so much, guys, everyone. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can contact me. I'll be more than happy to help you. Good night, good evening, and thank you. Enjoy your weekend, friends. Take care.